Hello, good people of the internet. Mike here. I'm reviewing this Kickstarter, ARcana Augmented Reality Platform for TTRPGs. Wow, that is a long name. Because it's a 3D mapping tool. It's very clearly not a virtual tabletop, though. I want to be clear. There are no character sheets. There are no rule systems. This is about virtual maps. There are some things that I think that are really cool about this. And especially if you use other virtual tabletops that allow Hero Forge minis to be brought into the $30 level is a great value. I'm not 100% sure I'm going to back this. I might. I don't know yet. I'm probably going to do it at $30 level just to get the 5 free Hero Forge minis. But let's play their video. And I'm going to pause the video occasionally and talk about what we're looking at.
ARcana, the most advanced augmented reality platform for tabletop gaming.
Okay, let's pause it right there. So this is real game footage of them building something. Obviously, you wouldn't be able to build it quite that quickly. This is using Fat Dragon Games art. You can see that they've got miniatures. There's some goblins and some orcs. On the Kickstarter page, they show them unpainted. They have said that they will be painted like this when they release. So let's keep going.
For years, RPGs have strived to harness the power of digital technology.
All right, so let's talk a little bit here about what we're looking at. You're going to see that there's a build on the table. They're all sitting around with their mobile devices, which is great that it runs on a mobile device. They've managed to compress or otherwise manage the data so that it can be run on small devices, not on computers. I'm going to say again, it's not a virtual tabletop. None of these people have character sheets on their mobile devices at the same time that they're looking at the maps. I don't see character sheets on the table. One thing I'm going to say is if I've got a small device and I'm using D&D Beyond, if I'm running 5th edition or I'm using some other tool to actually manage the characters, it's not going to work very well to see the character sheet on a small device and the map on a device. And if you're doing this, so that's something to think about, because I here we are looking at them actually playing and there's no character sheets. So got to think about how that would really work for you.
Now, augmented reality captures the magic of role-playing games and brings it right to your device.
Okay, so if you scroll back just a tiny bit here, Mike, you can see this is what they actually see when they're looking at it. I'll say that the two people who have their mobile devices actually on the table as opposed to in their hands makes a lot more sense to me. No one's going to hold their thing for 3 hours or even 20 minutes for an encounter. Like, nobody's going to do that. The other thing I'll say about this being a not virtual tabletop, it's probably not going to have its dice rolling linked to D&D Beyond or any other tool. So I'm not sure if you use D&D Beyond why you would roll the dice in this tool. I mean, I don't know why you don't use D&D Beyond if you've got all the tools in D&D Beyond. It does cost money. That would be, I guess, one reason why. We're not playing here.
And brings it right to your device, featuring digital replicas of your favorite terrain, miniatures, dice, and cards.
That's pretty slick, and what we're about to see is pretty slick. What we're about to see is one of the stretch goals, and that's magic special effects and the lighting special effects. It's pretty cool. Also, I really like the player point of view, the feeling that you get here. Some of the other 3D virtual tabletops really struggle with that. Almost none of them outside of the RPG engine have spell effects like this at all, as far as I know. So what we're about to see is really cool. It's slick that she can move her minis. They're talking about if there's a trap or something when you move a mini that it would get stopped or something like that. So that's just something to think about, but every 3D virtual tabletop really has that problem.
Unlike other 2D web platforms that force you to play from behind a PC, ARcana offers an authentic gaming experience on your tabletop. using digital terrain and minis.
We're just going to move my face for a second here. So you can see their 4 partners, great partners, Dwarven Forge, Fat Dragon Games, both do great physical assets. Reaper for monster minis and Hero Forge for player characters and non-player characters. I will say if you watch this video again, you'll notice how empty the rooms are. There are barrels here. I don't know where those come from because there aren't any barrels that I am able to see in any of the rewards. Big issue with this tool, in my opinion, is the complete lack of props in this part of the release.
From the brands you know and love. Best of all, each piece in your collection can be used infinitely, so you never run out of the right pieces to make that perfect adventure.
That's not really any different than other virtual tabletops. Every virtual tabletop allows you to use the tools infinitely, but it is a huge advantage of virtual tabletops. One thing I'll say about this compared to some of the realistic virtual tabletops is you can actually see over the walls, which is great, and we're kind of looking pretty close to point of view, not exactly. So, I'm a big fan. It's not the most realistic looking thing. If realism is your thing, then you want to look at Dungeon Alchemist for maps and Wild Shape as an actual virtual tabletop.
And with customizable paint schemes and textures, your options are truly unlimited. Simple gesture controls allow you to build, navigate, and interact in a seamless and intuitive way. With ARcana in your pocket, you can create, design, and play on the go.
Let me show you what I've been working.
Big advantage here that you could actually build on a mobile device like that. I own 4, 5, 6 of these 3D mapping or virtual tabletop tools, and I have a pretty new computer with a very powerful graphics card, 32 meg of RAM, a big processor, and sometimes it still chews through all of that. So whatever they've done to simplify, to reduce the size of the data being used and manipulated, it must be pretty impressive.
Toggle effortlessly between the lean back mode and augmented reality mode for that fully immersive experience. Gather your friends and play a game around the table or around the world.
All right, you guys, check this out.
To go inside, I need everyone to roll for initiative.
So this is interesting. They say that they have audio already built in, but they're kind of showing video here. They say they're working on video. I gotta admit, this is a pretty good implementation of video if that's actually gonna be how it works. You'll notice in that previous scene, one of the guys was using his telephone, which is great. I'm not sure how you'd really be able to see the map on your phone. And again, I don't know how you'd look at a character sheet and a map. You'd have to flip back and forth, which might not be a huge problem. But for a lot of players, I mean, I've read a lot of people online who struggle with having a map and their character sheet on a monitor and Discord. So, we'll see how that really works.
Innovative features like player POV place you in the game, forever changing the way that you play.
I'm really interested in that scene for the player point of view and this scene, both of which have 2D maps, backgrounds, which they don't really talk about on the Kickstarter page, but you can see here, there's a background there that is possibly part of the art, and maybe they've just made it taller. That's my guess here, but this is not part of whatever the art is. And they built it here, so you could theoretically, maybe we'll see, have some kind of background image or whatever, and then build on top of that. That would be great.
This is ARcana. We've assembled an incredible team, and together we are creating the future of tabletop gaming. Join our Kickstarter today.
I don't think they know how they're going to do flying yet. This is clearly a video rendering. If this is what they're planning to do with flying creatures, that's great. There aren't a lot of flying minis as far as I can remember. We'll see when we look. But at some point you're going to want flying minis, and you're going to want to be able to have them be up high, which is kind of interesting because none of the terrain packs feature outdoor scenes, and a lot of stuff happens outside. So there's a starter set. You get Reaper minis, Dwarven Forge minis, Fat Dragon stuff, terrain, sorry. This bonus right here is what I was talking about before. 5 Hero Forge minis would cost you $40 for the virtual minis right now on Hero Forge. So at $30, you're kind of getting them for free, plus the app. Kind of a good deal if you're interested in it. So at that $30 level, you get the app, you get some minis, you get 1 terrain pack. We'll talk about what that means. If you just want to see what it looks like, and you have another virtual tabletop that allows you to use Hero Forge minis, $30 is a great deal. $50, got no idea why you would back at this level unless you only have $50 to spend, in which case you probably shouldn't be backing a Kickstarter, because it comes with 2 terrain packs, and I'm not sure why you would want 2 when 3 is really the sweet spot minimum. So let's talk about the $80 level. You get the app. By the way, players don't need to pay for the app. Only the person who is using the assets, using the assets to create a map needs to have the paid version. So that's kind of nice. Unlimited hosting and asset sharing, the starter set, the Hero Forge minis, 3 terrain packs, which is important, and then some minis, some exclusive props, 10 Kickstarter exclusive props. Maybe that's where the barrels are. Who knows? Plus stretch goals. The 150 level, so somewhere either the 180 or the 150 level to me is the sweet spot. The big difference is a few more minis, which I'm not in love with their choice of minis right now, but I'm not disliking their choice of minis, and that we'll get more probably when they get into the $300,000, $400,000, maybe $500,000 range, which it looks like it's going to get to. But this gives you all 6 of the current terrain packs, which I think is ideal. But you could easily do the $80 level, I think. Either of those 2 is the sweet spot. As you can see, there's a sold out sign here on the beta. You had to be one of the first 1,000 users. You're not going to be now at this point. I don't know why anyone would do the $250 or $1,000 level. That's just vanity stuff, but hey, what do I know? So here are the terrain packs. I saw someone online comment that you couldn't build a wide variety with one of these terrain packs. I can tell you from owning both Dwarven Forge and Fat Dragon games, you can make an infinite variety of stuff with just one of these packs, but 3 packs to me is the sweet spot. So here we can see you've got the classic dungeons from Dwarven Forge, caverns from Dwarven Forge. These are really amazing pieces. The villages, I don't own the villages from Dwarven Forge. I do from Fat Dragon games. They're slightly different dungeon and cavern pieces, and when you mix and match them, they don't look exactly the same. But hopefully that doesn't matter to you. If it does, then I would just do the $80 level. If you're willing to mix and match a little bit, I would definitely do the $150 level. And I can't imagine anyone who does 3 picking 1 from Dwarven Forge or Fat Dragon games and 2 from the other. You would want to do all 3. I kind of like what you can do more with the villages selection from Fat Dragon games. I kind of like the art a little bit more in these 2. So maybe you would do dungeons and caverns there and villages here if you do the 80. So what minis do you currently get? Zombies. And again, this varies based on what level you pledge at. Skeletons. I gotta admit, these are nice minis. I wish they showed them painted. They're going to be painted when they're delivered. I'm not sure why they are showing us them unpainted. Goblins, they all look a little bit different. Kobolds, so it's a good variety. And obviously, if you have these kobolds, you can use as many of this one as you want in an encounter. Orcs, trolls, giants, werewolves, and vampires. This is the one that I wish was something else, like demons and devils, or even player characters, non-player characters, something a little bit different than it is. Then you've got the pledge summary, blah, blah, blah. So I'm just going to go to one video here, and it's in the updates. And we're going to show the mixed physical and artificial reality terrain video. So he's building something physical there, and he's got something virtual there. And you can see the difference between the Dwarven Forge and the Fat Dragon Games appearance. It's not really a huge difference.
I'm Kyle Newman from Mirrorscape, and this is ARcana Augmented Reality Terrain. We've got physical Dwarven Forge cavern over here, and we've got Fat Dragon Dungeon right here, and you can seamlessly merge the two on your tabletop, so you can use your pre-existing collection with your digital collection. Build as big as your imagination takes you.
Alright, so let's talk about that video a little bit. I'm not sure how minis on the table interact with the virtual terrain. That's a question that I'd want to understand a little bit better. If that works, that's kind of cool. Big as build as you want doesn't really work if you're putting it on a table. So I'm not quite sure how that would work. But clearly, if you're not kind of projecting it onto a table, it can be as big as you want, which is great. A lot of people really love to build big builds. In my experience, you're better off building a bunch of small builds than putting them on and off the table. But if you have room on your table, a big build it is really a lot of fun. So let's talk about some of the things I love and some of the things that I don't love. I think the art and the minis and the idea of being able to use it on a mobile device instead of a powerful computer are great. Huge advantages over some of the other products out there. The ability, some people want something that looks super realistic, in which case I would point you to Wild Shape for a virtual tabletop, or Dungeon Alchemist for maps, which just came out. Some people want something that's really easy to build, like Dwarven Forge or Legos or Minecraft, however you want to think about it. This has that advantage. It also has advantage of not trying to be too realistic, so that when it doesn't look realistic, it looks like you expect it to look. The walls on the caves are a good height so that you can see over them, as opposed to some of the realistic things. If you built a 5-foot wide or 10-foot wide hallway, you can't, even on your computer, you've got to tilt it in such a way that you're looking straight down. So I think there are some really cool things here. It's clear that they're going to offer additional terrain packs and additional minis and props and other things going forward. We don't know what that's going to cost. One Hero Forge STL right now costs $8. I don't know what they're planning to charge for terrain or for minis, but if they're planning to charge me as much as I would have to pay, or close to what I'd have to pay in real life, I'm just not interested. I will say it's kind of, it doesn't seem like I get a really good value per terrain pack going from 30 to 80 to 150. Like, I feel like, so now I'm into things that I don't love, right? I feel like, you know, I should be more like in the $100 range to get all 6. I really don't like the lack of props. That's a huge issue. Every other virtual tabletop has literally thousands of pieces of terrain and props. Easily over 1,000, maybe not thousands, of terrain and props. Its main competitor here is Tailspire. It's built in the same way, and it has the same kind of look. That has easily over 1,000 when you look at all the miniatures and all of the terrain pieces. And yes, everyone who plays in your Tailspire campaign has to pay the $40, I think it's $40 now, to have a copy of the game. So it's more expensive to run the game, but man, you have a lot more props, and you can get everybody else's maps already. It's already built. You know, $150 is reasonable. Maybe $80 seems a lot more reasonable to me. But for $80 for a 3D mapping tool, I would expect a lot more terrain, a lot more props, some props, other than the 10 Kickstarter exclusive props. And I would expect some idea of what it's going to cost to add on additional pieces as I go forward. We certainly know that in other tools. And if you look at my first video in this series about 3D virtual tabletops and mapping tools, you can see what each of them looks like compared to this. And every one of those, when they add more content, pretty much it's free. There might be an occasional time where they charge a little bit more, but I don't remember any of them charging DLC charges for any of the content. I know Wild Shape, they just added science fiction and steampunk assets for free, no charge. And I get that there are different kinds of companies, but a company that's going to try to be this big, that's already raised to 221,000, so they're going to get into the $500,000 range probably, maybe 400,000. Really feel like I should be getting more for my money. Really feel like I should have a lot better idea of what it's going to cost me to buy more terrain, more minis, more props in the future. So that and again, if you're on a mobile device, no one's going to sit there and hold it at the table like that. Maybe Joe, what's his name there, his arms might be strong enough to do that for 3 hours, but nobody else's is. Arms are, not arms is, Mike. So, I think it's a great idea that I could use it on mobile, but again, I'm going to need another mobile device or something for my character sheet, maybe even a piece of paper. Old school, who knows? So that's kind of an issue. Certainly if you're playing remotely, you can run it on a PC, so you could, if you have a big enough monitor. I have 2 monitors here. I end up having Discord in my character sheet on one and the map on my really big one. Maybe you don't have that set up, but there are ways to make that work. I'm just thinking it seems a little misleading that anybody would be sitting around with their telephone looking at a map that big and somehow running their character sheet at the same time. And they're very clear. It's not a virtual tabletop. It is a virtual mapping tool, which is great. We need virtual mapping tools. The last thing I'm going to say is, if you play Dungeons & Dragons, there's the tiny risk. Maybe not tiny, because we all saw the not-so-secret thing from Wizards of the Coast last year, that Wizards of the Coast is eventually going to do a 3D virtual tabletop of some kind. I don't think that's a real concern. If you're interested in something like this, if you're interested in the other tools that I talk about in this series, go for it. You probably have enough disposable income to spend $30 or $50 or $100 on this, and then in 2-3 years, if Wizards comes out with something, spend that money on that. We haven't heard of an alpha or a beta at this point, so I can't imagine that they're close. Although I suppose with a good NDA, they probably could have an alpha that we wouldn't have heard about. So in summary, I think it looks cool. I think there are some really good ideas here. I love that it runs on a mobile device. I'm worried how I'd manage my characters. I think the partnerships are great. I love the art and the minis from all of these companies. They're all of the companies that I spend a lot of money with and support. On the negative side, I can't believe there's not any outdoor terrain. It would be great to understand how it works with 2D props. It would be great if I could have a 2.5 dimension standee, where I could have a standee like a Skinny Mini, which are great products by the way, or a piece of cardboard mini with art on both sides. If you gave me a 2.5 dimension standee where I could put any art on there and have it be a token, have it be a mini, that would be great. So, good, bad, I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'm probably going to back at the $30 level for the 5 Hero Forge minis. And if I back beyond that, I'm thinking the 80 or the 150. I can't understand the 50 or the 250 or 1,000. I'm not even sure why anybody would choose any of those. So there it is. That's my first ever kind of live look at an active Kickstarter. If you like this video, that would be great. I could use a little bit of encouragement with an occasional like or share, or even a comment. That would be awesome. If you really like these videos, there's a link down there to my Dungeon Masters Guild's products. I'm not doing this to sell stuff. I'm doing this because I have time to look at things that maybe other people don't and give you some hopefully helpful information. Anyway, have a great day, everybody. Keep having fun while you're gaming.